Greetings. I'm Evan Swenson. I'm an author and a book publisher. I'm also the developer of Author Masterminds, sponsor of Readers and Writers Book Club. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. You're invited to come along with us. This is the worldwide online general membership meeting of Readers and Writers Book Club, rapidly becoming the book club destination for all readers of good books. Thanks for being here. Today's membership is represented online by Author Mastermind members and other book club members participating on Facebook Live. Once again, welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. We'll begin today's meeting by becoming better acquainted with each of the authors of the books club members have been reading this past month. First, we'll meet Rich Ritter, the new voice of the American West, author of The Heart of Abigail, a lyric novella of Juneau, Douglas, and Treadwell, Alaska. Next is Greg Liefer, author of Aviation Mysteries of the North, Disappearances in Alaska and Canada. And then Robin Barefield, Alaska Wilderness mystery author of Karluk Bones, an Alaska Wilderness mystery novel. Okay, let's meet today's authors and book club members. We got a lot of people here today, and not everyone is going to be hearing the same things, and so we got a lot of technology going on. It's a good thing we've got some young people here. Mary Flint, she will keep us on the ball. We have authors, Readers and Writers authors, and book club member authors, and Author Mastermind members. We are live on Facebook. So let's begin. Greg, I guess, can you hear us okay? Greg, are you live and well now?
I believe so. I can hear you fine.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, let's talk. You're new to Author Masterminds, and this is your first experience on Facebook Live, I guess. Let me just start out by telling you, Greg, that we haven't ever lost anyone, that they all survived to the end, and you'll make it along with us. We've been reading your book this last month. Some of us have. Tell us about Greg Liefer, who you are, where you are. Just introduce yourself.
Well, I'm a fifth generation Alaskan, or at least I was. I currently live in Idaho. I grew up in the town of Wrangell in southeast Alaska, which is south of Juneau and north of Ketchikan. I was a commercial fisherman at a time, mainly through college and high school. Joined the military, became a helicopter pilot, retired after 20 years. Then I flew civilian helicopters for another 12 years, retired from that, and now I currently just devote my time to researching and writing. I've actually been researching aviation history for probably 32 years and writing almost as long as that. So I'm busy, but I kind of do it part-time. I don't do it full-time. I like to spend time traveling and time with my family.
Tell us about your family.
My wife, Elizabeth, is still working. She's a school teacher. I have one daughter, and her and her husband live in Boise, Idaho, about 45 minutes from us, and we have a brand new grandbaby, 3 months old.
Oh, well, congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank you. My first grandchild.
Greg, where in Idaho do you live?
I live in a town called Wilder, which is just north of Homedale, west of Boise.
Very familiar with it.
Oh.
Darn near got killed on the railroad tracks there.
Your
what
fault.
were you doing on the railroad tracks?
Trying to cross them.
That'll do it.
And the car stalled.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Let's see. We got next up. We got Robin Barefield, out in the Tules, and so far out we can't even find her. All she
Hello.
Hey, we got your voice though, Robin. Good. All right. Well, Tell us, Robin,
Yep.
about Robin Bearfield.
Okay, well, hello. I live in the wilderness on Kodiak Island in the middle of the Kodiak National Wildlife Refuge, and there are no roads or nothing to my place. I travel back and forth to civilization by airplane mostly, sometimes by boat. And so I'm just out here in the wilderness with very slow, limited internet. So that's why I'm not there in person. But otherwise, it's very nice out here. My husband and I own a small lodge, and we just finished our summer bear viewing and sport fishing season. So it was a long season, but a good season, and that's what keeps me busy.
Okay, well, Robin, we appreciate you being here, even though we can't see you and touch you in person. We know you're present, and so we're glad that you're here. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, Robin, I just wanted to ask, I've got a couple neighbors that were living in Kodiak until a few years ago, and it's a small town. Do you know the Galloways or the Huckins?
Are you thinking about that,
Oh,
Robin?
I don't, but I don't. Kodiak is, I don't live in Kodiak, so I
Okay.
probably I know people who would know them, I'm sure, but I'm not. I'm only in Kodiak a few days a year, so I'm not that. I don't know that many people there.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I'm kind of out here in the middle of the stick, so it's it's hard to say.
All right. It would be funny if somebody you did know. One of those names you mentioned. I
Yeah,
thought
can you guys hear me? I'm kind of cutting out here. I know.
Yeah, you're coming and going, Robin. That's great. Greg, say those names again.
Galloway. I can't remember the parents' names. They currently live in Anchorage. They lived in Kodiak for quite a while. Their son and his wife and their in-laws are my neighbors. And then I have a good friend who was a previous neighbor about a half mile from where I'm living now. His last name was Huckins, and he was a Navy SEAL stationed in Kodiak for about 20 years or 12 years maybe before he retired.
No, don't know them.
Greg, do you know anyone in Kodiak in the aviation business? Because I would know them. I would know people that were float plane pilots or in aviation here. I'm familiar with most of the people in that category.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody off the top of my head specifically. I mean, I corresponded with, I know at least two people that were running one of the museums and another one that was involved with the air station there, but I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Well, let's talk now that we know our two authors. Rich Ritter didn't arrive. We don't know what happened to Rich. He's down in Juneau, Alaska. Maybe the politicians got him. I don't know. But anyway, now's the time that we could let's just talk about books. We've been reading Greg's and Robin's book. We'll see if Rich arrives later, we'll get talking with him. But let's just talk about books. Now you've got the authors here that wrote those books you've been reading. What would you like to ask them? Talk about the book. Let's just put it this way. It's your time to talk. Marty?
Greg, you said Huckins? Do you know what SEAL team he was with?
It was SEAL Team 1. I know they had a detachment in Kodiak. They probably still do. And he was the master chief in charge of that detachment. They didn't have an officer in charge in Kodiak.
Right. And he later moved to SEAL Team 5.
Well, I know he was in a couple different SEAL teams, but before he retired, he was in SEAL Team 1. And then he moved to Wasilla and was working on the pipeline for a while. And before he moved down to Idaho.
Gotcha. Well, if you ever, is he still alive?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever see him, tell him that Spoke said hi.
That you said hi?
Spoke.
Spokes, okay.
Spoke.
Long story there, but you'd have to read one of my books to understand that.
Okay.
Oh, is this a pitch for one of your books, Marty? Did you see how he got that in there?
Did I say anything about did I say anything about Into the Fire or The
No.
Worth of Souls, or
No.
did I say anything about those?
Very well done, Marty.
Yeah, okay.
Pardon?
Go ahead, Carl. Carl
Greg.
Douglas.
I did read your book. I liked it very much. My favorite genre is nonfiction. And I think you did a superlative job in making stories out of the crashes and all that. I think they are so good, the stories, that you ought to take each one of them and write either a novella or a novel by fleshing out the things that you don't know and that you can imagine, like the angst and the horrors that the families went through. Or you could take one and find people who were saved, or all kinds of things. But I think you have the basis for great and probably profitable books. As it is, your book is very well written. I really do enjoy history, and yours was a focused, limited area. And I think you chose well, and you have a nice, crisp, kind of Hemingway-esque simplicity about the way you communicated it. Nothing unnecessary and no fluff. You reached conclusions, or you gave the options which would lead to conclusions. And I think that's a great way for nonfiction. In fiction, you can be the god of the universe there, and you can make the conclusion you want. Anyway, I salute your accomplishment.
Well, thank you very much, Carl. I actually enjoy the research more than I enjoy the writing. And I think all of you could probably relate to this, but the more you write, I think the better you get. And that was one of my earlier books. So I'd like to think at least that my writing is better. I think my research has always been pretty much spot on. I mean, I kind of pride myself on being as accurate as I possibly can, you know, and finding sources for a lot of the material is often a challenge. And I like to have at least 2 or 3 sources to back up what I'm writing instead of just one source. I have found, though, that newspaper articles, and this goes all the way back to the early 1900s, were just as inaccurate as they are now. I mean, it seems like the reporters and the editors, everything was about selling newspapers, and they would print stuff that was completely untrue, you know, whether it was fabricated, and they would add sensationalized bits of information. So that was always a kind of a challenge for me to kind of weed that out and find out what the actual truth was. But thank you.
Sounds like Wyatt Earp and the Penny Dreadfuls.
I didn't catch that, Carl. Go ahead. Yeah.
That sounds like Wyatt Earp's opinion about the Penny Dreadfuls. He had no truck then.
Oh. So
Greg?
fake news is not necessarily to our generation today. It went back a while, huh, Greg?
It used to be called yellow journalism.
Greg, a quick question. Is it essential that one uses that bottle of gin either to read it or to write it?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. The model of what?
The bottle of gin on the picture. Maybe that's Evan's escape. I don't know.
That must be Evan's escape.
Now, I guess we're going to have to get that picture back up. Is that what you're talking about?
Sure.
Now, there are a lot of other things on that picture, Marty, but Your
I didn't even
suspect.
notice that, Marty. I'm glad you focused in on that.
Yeah, and
I was
and
looking
I
at
didn't
everything
either.
else but the bottle.
We can trust Marty to come up with that. Thank you, Marty. Any other intelligent question you'd like to ask Greg while you're right there?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Go ahead, Robin.
I have something I'd like to say to Greg. Greg, I love this book, and I have had this book for several months. I write newsletters on mysteries and murder in Alaska, and this was like finding a gold mine. You have all these great stories in here. I haven't used any of them for a newsletter yet, but when I do, I will be sure to give you credit. But I just love reading books like this, and I agree. You with Carl, you brought the stories to life. You're not just dealing with the facts. You actually bring them to life, like the puddles on the runway. And I thought you did an excellent job. I really enjoy this book.
Thank you very much. And feel free to use those any information you'd like in your newsletter.
Well, thank you. I will contact you, I'm sure, with questions. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
And being a recipient of her newsletters, they are awesome, just like Robin.
Super.
Oh, Marty, thank you.
Marianne, Texas Marianne Paul, go ahead.
Well, I figured I'd move along. I did read part of Greg's, and I enjoyed the amount of research. I could tell was really, you do deep research. But I was going to move along to Karlak Bones, since I'm more of a fiction person than I am a nonfiction, even though he got me hooked on his. And I just want to say, if anybody hasn't read Karlak Bones, that I was hooked from the beginning. And it's very hard for a mystery writer to make me go all the way to the end to know who did it. So I'm just amazed, and Robin did that very well. And it's a wonderful read. So thanks, Robin.
Well, thank you, Marianne, and thank you for you helped me. You helped me with the beta reader, and I appreciated that. And thank you. I'm glad I surprised you.
Really did, and you've got my respect.
Thank you. Now, Marty, you look at this picture and see what we can find there to quiz Robin about that you didn't have anything to do with the picture.
Well, is that a sea lion over there on the right, just right of the toes?
I'm sure
line.
that's what it is. Robin, you can't see this picture that we've got up here, and it's probably a good
No,
thing.
I can see it. I can see it.
Oh, can you?
No,
All right.
I can see it. Yep. I was wondering if the grass was itchy.
I think that's a big bottle of gin with a message in it, is what it is.
There you go. Oh dear. We have to be careful about talking about gin. Mary Flint's here, and she's not of legal age yet, so we'll get picked up for contributing to the delinquency of a minor or something here, Greg, so be careful. Anything else that anyone like to talk about this book? Or Carl?
I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I have worked at overcoming the temptation to skip through to find out who done it.
Want me to tell you?
I do not want you to tell me, because all kinds of hints are there. It is very tantalizing. The research is superb, such that I feel like I'm a silent observer, invisible there in the scene. But I don't know what the author knows, the God of the narrative. All I know is what she is willing to tell me at each point, and it comes out in dribs and drabs. Much like Greg's writing, This is very succinct, focused. There is research. It is not overdone. It simply fills in so the scene is real. And I'm going to finish the book today. I would have finished today, except that I did not have my grandchildren here to, or Mary, to make the stupid machine work. So I lost the book. Actually, I lost all my books. And Evan had to find them all for me. It's like my wife finding my glasses. I cannot get along without Evan, wife, or grandchildren. Anyway, I do love the book.
Well, thank you, Carl. And yeah, this book was fun because it was actually based on 4 true stories. And one of the true stories, it was from a guy that we know, and it was fun because he was pretty excited to read it, and he was glad I changed the facts enough that it wasn't exactly about him, but it was fun to come up with those 4 true stories because the true stories, a couple of them especially, are so outrageous that I would have never thought to come up with them for a plot. So it's kind of fun taking true stories and going from there. You at least you know what is possible.
Robin, where did the cover come from?
That was all the publication consultants doing, and I loved it, and I told them what I wanted, and I did not imagine it to come out like that. I was really, really impressed and happy with it. It came out great, and the book starts with a fire, and some bones are found in the fire. So that's what it represents.
This
Well,
cover is proof positive of the ability of Robin to describe something that is real, because she sent our design team, person that put the cover together, she sent her a written description of what she'd like to have on the front cover. And the design team, to their credit as well, took that description and put it on the front cover. And I think that was without change, wasn't it, Robin? It was one time and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. Yep. I loved it. As soon as I saw it, I thought it captured the feeling of not only the feeling of what was found in the woods, but the feeling of the story. It makes it look kind of sinister, and I love that.
Greg, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was gonna
Comment.
say I haven't read it yet. I did download it. I just finished Rich's book, so Robin's will be next. But when you're commenting on the cover, that kind of brought something to mind. I think having a good cover like Robin does is very essential to kind of grabbing people's attention. If it's on a bookshelf, people that are walking by, if they're not familiar with the author, they're going to key in on something that kind of separates one book from another. And I think that title and that cover does that. So I think it's a great job on that. That's all I got.
Okay.
I really like it. I think it's very eye-catching.
So is there anything else? While you're talking, I'm going to look on Facebook Live and see what we've got over there. I kind of ignored those people over there. So somebody pick up this conversation while I look. So Mary Flint, Texas Mary Flint, you carry on this conversation just a little bit. Let's see what the teenagers among us would do. All right?
I haven't finished it yet, but I started reading Rich's book, Heart of Abigail. So I really liked that because I'm more of a fiction person, but I do love learning about history. So I like historical fiction because it kind of blends history and fiction together and makes it more interesting than history book. And I think I personally learn a lot more reading novels like Rich's than I do just looking it up on the internet. So I really loved how he kind of constructed this environment of Alaska, because I grew up in Alaska before I moved to Texas. So him describing like the cold air in the winter. I almost felt like I was back home.
Okay. Oh, hey, thanks, Mary, for giving me an opportunity to look over on Facebook, and that was excellent. I like that. Okay, with the Rich Ritter has been found. Rich is in the wrong place. He should be here, not over on Facebook. So he must not have got the link correctly, or we missed it or something. But Rich, we're sorry that you're not here to talk with us about your book, The Heart of Abigail, which I have read. And it's an outstanding little novella. I liked it a lot. And I know that some of you have read Rich's book as well. Okay, anything else that anyone would like to bring up about the books that we've been reading? The authors, you got a question for any of them? Anything before we move on to the next agenda item? Carl Douglas, you have something, I see.
Yeah, I just want to add some exclamation points to Mary Flint's observations. It is a very clever book, very cleverly written and fun and funny to read. It's kind of Oil Can Harry and The Perils of Pearl Pureheart. It has a sort of, I guess the best word is lyrical, but it has an antiquarian kind of description and speech. And yet it covers the history with real and unrelenting detail. It doesn't hide anything. It really is the perils of Pearl Pureheart. And I think you ought to read it. It's well to describe it as poetic prose. In fact, he starts almost every chapter, probably every, with a poem which gives you an insight into what's going to take place in the chapter. And I thought that was a very clever way to do. The whole thing is clever, highly readable, and I recommend it. And I think you make a mistake if you miss it.
Yeah, Rich is an excellent author. He's really everything he writes. He wrote a piece for my blog here a while back, and it was just wonderfully written. He puts a lot of time and effort into everything he does, and he's a very good writer.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his characters. I thought they were very believable, and he has a nice flair for kind of bringing that all together. I mean, I read a lot of books. I read fiction, mostly nonfiction, but his writing is even better than a lot of these supposedly they are best-selling authors, but I don't consider them that great. But I think Rich's writing is a lot better than most of them. Not just the historical facts, but the way the dialogue that he has with these characters and his description of the scenery and what's going on. It's not overdone. It just flows very well.
Now, what did you think, Greg, of the golf game in the warehouse? Do you remember the golf game in the warehouse?
Yeah, there was a couple of things in a book that kind of I wouldn't say threw me for a loop, but they kind of weren't what I expecting. I mean, he also had the one chapter that was, I think, was called Trouble about, and he kind of put in a play, almost like a film. I'm looking for the right word here, but it diverted from the regular chapters, so it kind of got even more of my interest, and I thought that was kind of neat the way he did that.
Well, before we move on, I just wanted to mention here that Greg's book has a chapter in there that the book had nothing to do with it, but the experience had everything to do with perhaps even saving my life. And we talked about that, Greg. The Begage Boggs, Don, right. What was Don, the pilot's name? Don Johns. Johns that they crashed or they disappeared. They'd never been found. I don't think they've ever been found, have they, Greg? Any
No, they have
evidence?
never been
No.
found.
Yeah.
Spence, you know, if you read the book, there's a big conspiracy theory kind of surrounding what happened. You know,
Oh,
whether
sure.
you believe that or not is really kind of beside the point. I know he has several sons, one who became, I'm talking about Begich, one of his sons became the mayor and then a congressman. But he has another son who's a big environmentalist, and he was convinced that the government was hiding the whole crash and refused to go and recover the plane and find the bodies or find them when they were living. And I thought that was a little bit hokey, but there's people that think it went down on a big glacier down by Yakutat, and a lot of people think it went down in Prince William Sound, you know, possibly Portage Pass outside of Anchorage. Nobody knows. But it is a mystery, and it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I was piloting my own plane out in the pucker brush, as they call it in Alaska. And you know, Alaska is only 30 minutes from Anchorage. And I was out in Alaska and had an incident with my airplane. It was of course, in the middle of the winter. It was cold. Had a couple of friends, business associates with me. And we were stranded. Airplane was upside down. It doesn't fly very good upside down, Greg. Even helicopters won't do that. But anyway, the people that were out looking for Begich and those people, they come and found me. And they had a helicopter was in the area that just swung over our way and picked us up and dropped us off at Providence Hospital, and we liked that.
I bet.
It was a good thing for us, but it didn't work for them.
You know, that reminds me of an interesting story. When I was flying helicopters in the Army, we had a training exercise down outside of Anchorage. And you know how the winds can blow down Turnagain Pass with severe turbulence. But anyway, we were flying just north of Anchorage, and we were listening to the radio, of course. And it was a civilian pilot in a single engine Cessna, and he was telling air traffic control that he encountered severe turbulence and it flipped him upside down, which was interesting enough. But then he said, I'm going to continue going and see if I can make it.
He had very low hours.
Very low hours, and I don't know if he survived or not.
Oh,
I've been in severe turbulence twice, and I never want to encounter it again.
yeah.
Very scary.
Well, then if you pilot in Alaska at all, flown in Alaska, why you have those experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else that anyone would like to discuss with our illustrious author mastermind members, Greg Leifer, Robin Bearfield?
Mary was doing her wigwag over her head with her hands. I didn't know if she still had something to say or if we ruined it for her.
No, I'm fine. I just had an itch.
Don't do that at an auction. Okay.
I'll keep that in mind.
The next bit of business, let's talk about then the books that we'll be reading for next month. And in as much as we've got a couple of the authors here, let's talk to them about that. We'll be reading next month, High Rock by Adam Freestone, The Empty Mint Mystery by Gordon Parker, and our Red Star by, let's see, I guess we got to get the whole title in there, Mary. What's the whole title?
The whole title is Red Star, The Hunter Trials.
Red Star, The Hunter Trials. Okay. So, Mary, tell us why we want to read your book this month. What are we going to get out of it when we walk away? What are we going to tell our grandchildren about it, or the kids down the street, or whatever?
So Red Star is a science fiction book. I created my own alien planet and my own aliens, my own kind of government system. And in Red Star, we have two main characters. There's Edric Solon. He's in the army, basically, in a very high branch of the army. So he's very respected, and he has a lot of privilege from that. And then our other main character, Andresha Canway, she's actually in a rebellion against the government. So as the story goes through, you see both of these characters kind of have to question their beliefs that they have. Edric has to question this government and this planet that he's respected and looked up to for his whole life. And Andresha has to kind of decide if everyone she's fighting against is really as evil as she's painted them to be, or if maybe some of them are human just like her, or in their case, Rendarian. But yeah.
Okay, well, Mary, may I ask you this question? The rest of us here, except Adam Freestone, we're senior citizens. Do the senior citizens, someone as old as Carl Douglas and Marty O'Neill, would they be interested in your book?
I think they would be. I've had quite a few older readers tell me they've really loved it. Some of them actually told me they didn't like to read a lot of fiction, but they really enjoyed this one. So,
well, I can say this about your book, Mary, and that is that how old were you when you wrote it?
I was 15 when I started.
Yeah, and when you sent it to the publisher, how old were you?
I was 16.
16. And I can say that for a 16-year-old, it's an outstanding book. But for anyone, any writer, it's an outstanding piece of work. Carl Douglas, you had a comment.
Sounds too complicated for me, but I'll try. Since you have invented your own form of government, I just have a question for you. Are you old enough to run for Congress? It sounds like we could use you.
No, I'm not old enough to run for Congress, and I don't think I'd be very good at real life politics. I just tell everybody to just be quiet and can we please agree on something?
Yeah, good luck there.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of a mixture of Star Wars and that Fifth Wave series, which I enjoyed. So I've already downloaded it. I am going to read it. And I think it's pretty remarkable that she wrote that book at the age of 15. I wish I would have had that talent at the age of 15. So congratulations.
And she's a concert pianist in addition to that, Greg. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have said that because next time next month, we'll have Mary tell us about that. So scratch that comment. That did not exist. Okay. Robin, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm looking forward to it, and I agree with Greg. I wish I'd started writing at that age. She will do many, many great things, I'm sure. So, Mary, I'm looking forward to it, and I love science fiction, so I can't wait to read it.
Okay, well, thanks, Robin. And okay, well, let's talk to Adam Freestone. Adam, there's your book right in the center. Marty O'Neill. Wait just a second. Get your thoughts. Marty's going to want to say something. I hope it's appropriate.
No, I just was going to spotlight Mary a little bit. It could maybe next time she could play us a very, just a short piece that would be enjoyable. Would show off her other talent.
Yeah,
I can certainly try.
Now she can do it.
If I can get my device to cooperate.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, Adam, tell us about High Rock. Why do we want to read High Rock?
Okay, well, the book is basically about a boy who's different than everybody else, and it's basically the book's him struggling with that stuff, with that kind of those kinds of issues, and trying to kill him. But the reason why you'd probably enjoy the book is it's a young adult fiction, but basically it's got a lot of I'd say emotional scenes, and it's got a fair bit of action basically anybody who feels like different would probably enjoy that. And if and even though it's geared for young adults, basically if you just like a good story, you'll enjoy it.
I'm sure that. Marianne, you want to unmute yourself and we can hear you? Okay, that'd be good.
There we go. I read something that you had written, and I was just completely taken by your style of writing. So I'm really looking forward to reading the whole book about a person that has been, somebody's trying to murder him because of who he is and, where he came from. I think it's got a really good premise, especially just speaks to a lot of people. Mary's, I'm going to read. I've downloaded all three, by the way. I'm going to read them all. But I really am excited because when I saw something you wrote, I thought, man, you've got almost poetry in your writing. So it would be really interesting to read it.
Well, Adam, maybe this
Okay,
is a
yep.
question.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
No,
I
I
cut
was
you off.
just saying thank you.
Adam, this may be a good question for next month when you come back and after we've read your book and we can talk about it. But obviously, you lack typing ability. So how do you write? Do you do that by voice?
Yeah, I do the whole thing by voice. I use Dragon Naturally Speaking to do that, and it works pretty good most of the time. But it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll be typing something and there'll be like a word or two that the program just won't understand, and like I'll end up just having like after I say it about 3 or 4 times, I'll end up just typing it out myself using an on-screen keyboard.
That's amazing. It is amazing, Adam. Carl?
I have an insight into Adam, and I put it in print, but I want you to know how much I admire you personally. I have, in the course of my career, attended probably 500 or 600 quadriplegics, and the very fact that you are alive, that you carry on a social life, and that you have used your great mind constructively to write a book makes you in the top 1,000th%. And believe me, you are one of my heroes. And I know whereof I speak. So congratulations, and you have my admiration.
Yeah, thank you. But a little note with that, basically, if it wasn't for me writing my story, I probably would have gone crazy a long time ago.
Well, we're pleased that you didn't go crazy, and we're pleased that you wrote the book. And this is just the beginning, Adam, is that right?
Yeah, I've got ideas for several more books.
That's going to be a fun ride for all of the author masterminds to participate in that, Adam. All of us are going to enjoy that. Okay, well, I guess we could just say this has been a good fun meeting, hasn't it? Have we enjoyed meeting the authors? I'm sorry Rich wasn't here. He got messed up, but we're looking forward to now next month of reading the books, coming back next month about the last Tuesday of the month, preparing for then the November read. Okay, so Mary, we'll invite you back next month. We can talk to you, get to know you a little better. Adam, we invite you back, and we also then will invite Gordon Parker to participate. And we'll invite any of you that would like to come and participate as club members representing others here, join in the discussion, enjoy coming here and being with us. So I guess we could just say this, we could say goodbye and good luck. And may the good Lord take a liking to you, and we'll see you at least next month when we're reading these 3 books. We'll talk later. Keep in touch.
Bye.